Hey guys, welcome to the Sports Business Leaders Podcast. This is episode 1. I'm so excited for this. I'm Jake Voorhees, my co-host here. Who are we?
And I'm Justin Titchenell.
Thanks, Justin. We're so excited to launch this podcast. Justin and I have been talking about this for months and planning some events and doing things, and we're just so excited for the show. Justin, what is this show about? Who is it for?
Yeah, so the podcast is for sports tech founders, sports entrepreneurs, along with other ecosystem players to share their industry expertise, innovative ideas, and stories about their paths to success, really for Philly specifically, but also beyond.
Absolutely. So as you guys heard, we're launching this show, and this is going to be episode 1, and really the introduction episode, the origin story, how we got here, which will lead to what's going on in Philly and beyond, and give you a framework of the types of guests, the types of content, and why you guys should be a part of this show, be a part of the community, and recruit other people who you know of as sports tech founders, ecosystem players, entrepreneurs, anybody in this sports ecosystem. We want to be a part of this, particularly if you're here in Philly, but we're not exclusive to it. So yeah, I think we'll get into our quick individual projects very quickly and how we met, how Justin and I met, which is now back in like maybe February or March of 2024. And then we'll get into what else is going on in the sports industry. So Justin, you've been working on your startup for a couple years now. Tell us about that. What is it?
Yeah, so just to tell the story about it. So I graduated from Gettysburg College in 2021. Started Coach Tools, been working on it for the past couple of years. And what it is it's a platform for football coaches to help them with player grading and film evaluation. So coaches right now, they're evaluating their players on pen and paper. This digitizes it and is almost like Pro Football Focus, but for college coaches and high school coaches too.
Yeah, I love that you can use an analogy, an industry analogy, because I think that's so important. And we have a household name analogy because we always compare Athletify to LinkedIn. So what we're building with Athletify, we've been working for about 2 years, been very serious and committed for about the last year. We're building Athletify. It is, we say, the LinkedIn for youth athletes. It's a stats and highlights platform for youth soccer teams. So it's really a fan engagement component. And we have made our own camera system. We have our own platform. So it appears kind of like you're in a FIFA video game. You can see a player, you see all their stats. We provide match history. We provide highlight videos, very similar to what Trace does. So we're still figuring out our differentiation and things like that. But it's been a super fun project so far. We've raised $300,000, full engineering team, post MVP. And building Athletify led me to meet Justin. And it's funny, with Philly being such a sports city, I found it was ironic that I really didn't meet that many sports founders. And then I've met a few, Billy from Banty, and I can't blank on his first name, but the guy who runs Shot Caller. And when Justin and I met, we really hit it off and started having coffees and talking about our projects. Then we realized that Coach Tools and Athletify are actually kind of similar. They both are a stats platform. They both work with players to provide some sort of value. Coach Tools clearly to the coaching side, Athletify to the fans and the families and the fan engagement side. But yeah, we just started talking more and then launched our first meetup. And I think that was the next tier of things that happened in terms of leading to today, where, what was it, like 15 people, I think, came to that meetup. I took screenshots to try to get the maximum amount. Justin, do you remember how many people were there?
It was pretty cool. It was like 15 or 20 just on the first one.
Yeah, first one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, I think Jake kind of alluded to it, but right when we did that, when we had 15 to 20 people on the first call, like that told us that, all right, we're on to something and this is working. And there's people out there like us that we can also help. So I think that's like a huge thing that we can do with this podcast too, is to not only just maybe connect people, but also help people and get them the resources that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, humans are such tribal people. We always want to be around people who like the same things and are doing the same things. And then when founders get on this startup journey, they realize that, wow, there's a whole bunch of things ahead of me and maybe that are right in front of you right now that like you've never done before, and you want to be around other startup founders who have fallen down and stumbled and have the means to get up over and over again and be around those people. And then once you get into an industry niche, you want to be around more of those people, and you continue to deepen that nail. And that's exactly why we started this podcast, because as we connected back to our first meetup, we realized, I think it was around June 15th, like, oh crap, we're doing something right here. And one of the people that, as we continue this conversation and the intro episode, but one of the people in the organizations that was present at that first meetup, all the credit goes to you, Justin. But we had the head of community there, Scott Garber from Profluence, who leads community. And Profluence as a fund had been around for a while, but they also have a media brand and a premium community. And the head of community, like we already mentioned, was there. And then like 5 or 6 other Profluence members, Justin had joined. And that, I think, has really created a lot of momentum, a lot of other connections. So Justin, do you want to maybe tell us more about like your history with Profluence and how it's continued to reinforce what we do, and, you know, a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So back going probably about a year ago, I'd say, through one of my other friends, unrelated to Profluence, Sean Clifford, he just introduced me to Andrew Petcash over and told me about his content over LinkedIn. So I always followed Andrew. I reached out to him. We had a call maybe about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And I was just really interested by what he was up to and impressed by the kind of content that he was putting out there. So fast forward to when Jake and I met, like he was saying, probably around June time, I brought up this Profluence community because I had known that Andrew was starting it. And the huge value add for me and for Jake, I think I can speak for him, is just the fact that there's so many people in there that are doing exactly like what we're also trying to do. And they've tried to do a lot of the things that we're trying to do, like raise money. And there's also people on the other end that are also like people in VC firms or angels. And it's really cool. So that's, yeah, pretty much how we got connected and what, you know, the benefit has been for us so far.
Yeah, absolutely. This Profluence community, not that this show is about them or this episode is about them, but they have just really influenced and impacted our journeys individually along with this community so much that it's worth talking about. And yeah, 2 things to build off of what you mentioned, Justin. I'm blown away by like the micro niches that we see in this community. For context, guys, it's launched 3.5 months ago, and there's 400 members now. I think the price is like $40 or $50 a month, which, you know, I think is not cheap, right? Like once you get to that $100 a month price point, those are like very premium community, you know, online aspects and things like that. And so everybody's paying and understands this value. And I'm just blown away at like how specific the things are that all these startups do, that all these service providers do, that like certain funds and venture capital groups, they only invest in like one sport or one type of like, you know, sports media entertainment for this type of industry that does this. It's just so specific. And then Justin alluded to this too, but the other thing that's very cool about it is that like if you think about like, okay, you have a fund and then you built a premium community, you might be very competitive about like other capital being in that community, because technically you might see them as like, you know, coming at the same pie that you are. But Profluence doesn't have that. There's all these capital people in there, all these advisor people in there. So founders really get this layered value of meeting other founders, which is what this show is about, and meeting other people who are really playing in this game. And then also meeting the people who can help out these founders along the way, the mentors and advisors, because there's those people who come in as like, maybe they want some equity, they don't need any money, maybe it's just a consulting thing. But yeah, it's been very cool to see that unique community. And it's kind of led to some sweet things that I think can offer you guys value as listeners to this show, because Justin and I are co-organizing their quarterly pitch events that could even turn into like an incubator reward. There's like a whole bunch of vision for this pitch event. But Justin, how do you feel about the pitch event that we're organizing? It's on October 24th. Maybe we'll get this episode out ahead of time. Who knows? Either way. But yeah, what do you think about the pitch event? How's it going for you mentally so far? Things like that.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. And just hearing about the different companies that have applied, it's really refreshing to hear that people are going through the same issues that I'm going through and that you're going through. And it's great to understand that from a different perspective on this, although I'm not going to be an evaluator of the pitch, it's cool to be on the other side of it and hearing a little bit about these businesses from the other side of it. And real quick, just going back to what you had said earlier about how like this micro community, although it is a micro community, I think one of the really cool things that's interesting is viewing sports more so as an asset class. And that's what Andrew and Wayne Kimmel at 76 Capital, they always talk about this. And there's so many new opportunities out there, and it's the whole asset of sports is growing exponentially. And there's only going to be more opportunities out there, whether it be in tech with everything that's coming out with AI right now. Like that's the hot commodity. So I think it's going to be cool, and we're only going to see more innovative products out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I have heard, I think Scott Garber was the first person I ever heard that from, labeling sports as an asset class. And how I can relate to that, I'm very proud to be in the youth sports market and be able to say that, youth sports in America is bigger than the NFL now. It crossed the $20 billion marketplace line. The NFL is like 19 or 20, but youth sports in just 6 years by 2030 is forecasted to be a $70 billion marketplace. So that's 350% growth in 6 years, which is out of control. I mean, from an investment perspective, right? Like if you can place some capital dollars in youth sports or sports in general. So that's what people mean, is that just like maybe Bitcoin for 10 years ago was seen as like now a new asset class in people's portfolios, like a hedge where they make sure that a few percentage points of their total net worth was in Bitcoin. If you are ignoring sports within your investment portfolio, then you are making a big mistake, because like Justin said, it's growing so fast. There's lots of opportunity. It's always been in bed with entertainment and media, because there's so much American eyeball marketing impressions on sports, which is part of the benefit of being in America, because if you're doing football in Canada, it's just a whole different story, right? Or like not doing soccer around the world. So anyway, yes, the asset class growth and being a part of this industry is just out of control. I don't know if you wanted to talk about like tech expansion or any of the trends or any of the other things that are happening in your industries, but yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of this growth, and it's really cool to be here and be building in this space.
Yeah, no, it's really really exciting to be a part of it. And just real quick, going back to one point you brought up about like the asset class sports, just driving that point home, like especially in the NFL, I think this was like the maybe the first year where private equity groups could have ownership in NFL teams. And a good example of that is with the Josh Harris group, how they have the 76ers, but they also own part of the Commanders. So, those are just prime examples. And like we were saying, it's just really exciting for the future.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of changes in the way that capital moves around this industry. Another example is with the NIL change from 3 years ago, and especially what happened a week and a half ago with the University of Las Vegas player. You have groups, collectives who, if you think about that movie, The Blind Side, you had people who, it was illegal to boost and use your individual private wealth to help a football team that you believe in. But now you have groups of people who are pooling money in order to meet a salary expectation of a specific player, like a quarterback. And it is just crazy what people are doing with their capital and their influence and their connections in order to make change in the sports industry. And I only have like part of the narrative, right, with what's going on with NFL and football. I know that's a little bit more of your world, Justin, but yeah, it is crazy to be a part of this. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be able to amplify other founders, help them out, connect them with other resources and ideas and innovation. And I'm really excited to see who we can get on the show and help spread awareness about their innovation and their disruption. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And yeah, I mean, one of the other cool things that are just interesting trends going off of that too is how with I think the going rate for a Division I FBS quarterback is like, what was it? I think you mentioned it the other day. Like, was it like 30,000?
I saw I
or
read some,
150.
yeah, I read some articles at 150,000. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which is just absurd. Like thinking about that as a kid who's not even out of college. Like that's if you're out of college, that's still a great salary. But if you're in college, like, and that's the average. And obviously there's people making a lot more than that. But no, it's just really interesting to see how it's morphing and evolving.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is that like the market decides those prices, right? Meaning that these quarterbacks in just 3 years. So just for everybody who is listening to the podcast, one of the biggest problems specifically in American sports that have so much revenue around them, like football, like men's basketball, think about the NCAA basketball tournament. There's all these players who they're a part of this brand and organization that might be like Duke or Michigan football or something. And if you're a really good player, think about a star quarterback from Michigan, for example. Let's use Penn State. We got the Sean Clifford and the Pennsylvania, sort of narrative around here. But when Sean Clifford was at Penn State, he drove so many ticket sales to games. He drove so many merch purchases to people buying even the jersey with his name on it. And then think about the food and beverage sales. And this person might be making millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for an organization. And historically, these players haven't been able to capitalize off of their name, image, and likeness. That's where NIL comes from. That's what that acronym means. They haven't been able to capitalize on it. And I think there was so much tension about this for years, and everybody knew it was a problem. And I don't know, maybe you can share, Justin, like what was the straw that broke the camel's back and how this changed? But it really has opened up the floodgates into what we said a minute or two ago. Like now, the market price, a quarterback is worth about $150,000 in terms of marketing spend and what they're worth in terms of a brand seeing that they can put their logo on their jersey or whatever else is in the marketing mix, and this is what they're worth per year. So, Justin, was there like an event that happened that like was the final straw for this NAL breakthrough in 2021?
I don't think there was like a single event. I could be wrong, but I just know over the years, if you look at these big characters like Johnny Manziel, and then there was a UCLA basketball player. A bunch of people in the early 2000s sued the NCAA, arguing that they basically like violated the antitrust laws by not allowing athletes to make a share of the revenues. And if you look at people, for example, since we were talking about Penn State, if you look at like especially like a Saquon Barkley, like somebody like that, like there was so much excitement around Saquon going back in like the 2016, 2017 timeframe. And just thinking about that, like if he was playing now, I can't even imagine what he'd be making. Like it's, and like you were saying, it's what these athletes are worth. It's what the market is saying they're worth. And I mean, more power to them. Like I think I think there's going to be a lot of changes to it pretty soon with like what we talked about with the with the thing that just happened recently with the Las Vegas quarterback. But yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting, and I mean there's been so many changes around it even over this short window of time when it's been around for just 3 years.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And in all of sports, what you see is a trickle down effect where let's say that you are just working in some sort of football project in general, but you don't work with college athletes. You're not even in the NIL space. This additional revenue and market expansion coming into that industry, what it does is it all trickles down. And so for soccer, for example, we got the World Cup that's going to be here. Philly's one of the 15 World Cup cities in 2026. There's another big soccer event happening in 2025. And here I am in youth sports, which like the core age for youth sports is 8 to 13. We don't even get close to like that caliber of play. But because of the market expansion, all this funding and innovation and support, it trickles down and it ends up growing everybody. So that's what's interesting about NIL. So what I mean is that everybody in football benefits, whether you're in the NIL space or not. And I'm using the analogy into soccer that within the youth market expansion, within the attention on soccer in general, really trickles down to allow the youth market to expand too. So if you're in sports tech, if you're working in the industry, if you're a founder, if you're an industry player, and running a thriving business, even if you're not building a technology product. Like I always think about like grabbing onto a fin on the rocket ship. Like just make sure you got a hand somewhere on the rocket, because this thing is going and growing, and it's really exciting to be a part of. So yeah, Justin, anything else you want to add? I think this is a good intro message for the show, and go ahead.
Yeah. We talked about like a few different things, but I think the moral of the story is that the industry is growing and there's a lot of new innovations that are going to be coming out there. And I think, as with anything else, there's things that come and go, but there's always those steady businesses that have been around for generations. Like if you look at like the big companies, although they're not tech companies, the big companies in sports like a Nike or an Under Armour, like you'll always have those constants. But I'm really curious to see like what are going to be the next like big constant companies that are just starting off right now, because going back maybe 15 or 20 years ago, a big constant company that's doing very well right now, for example, is a Huddle. They've been around and they have really identified a specific market need that saved time and made coaches' lives easier. That's why it caught on so fast. It started, and going back to your idea with the trickle down effect, they started with FBS programs and some NFL teams. And then what ended up happening was it was weird. They trickled down to high school, and that's really where they have most of their market share. And I don't even think they're in the NFL or FBS programs anymore. They mainly use like Exos or Thundercloud for their video. But just going back to that, like it's going to be interesting to see like what are going to be the next Huddles of the world or the next big companies, just because there's so many different avenues that we can solve problems in.
Yeah, that's what's so exciting about disruption, because even if you like look around at all the most significant tech companies, like the lion's share of those weren't around when IBM was created over 100 years ago, and like Bell Telephone was such a dominant technology company at one point, and like Facebook, Snapchat, Uber, DoorDash, all of these companies for the most part are under 20 years old. A lot of them are 5 or 10 years old, and we're going to see is the same exact thing happening in sports. Because if you compare Huddle to a brand like ESPN or EA Sports, like Huddle hasn't been around anywhere near the amount of time, but they showed up. And I'm pretty sure I remember this graphic. There's only I think 15 sports tech companies that have reached billion-dollar market caps, like DraftKings and Fanatics. Huddle's on that list, so it's really good mention, and another good example of a disruptor. And that's what Justin and I are both trying to do with Coach Tools at Athletify. And I know tons of you in this sports tech industry are doing the same. So yeah, can't wait to see who we meet, the things that happen this year and beyond, and onward and forward, and waiting for the industry. So if you guys know people working in this industry, or somebody who should be on the show, somebody who might value from the episodes, go ahead and share. And what we really want to do is grow the community and help out everybody along. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, likewise, just to reiterate, Jake, excited to grow the community and think this is going to be a big thing. So thank you again for all watching.
Thanks again, guys. Welcome to the Sports Business Leaders Podcast, and we'll see you in another episode. Bye-bye.